Western movies have been around for well over 100 years. The bulk of the genre's films were released through its golden age, the 1940s through the 1960s. Because of the sprawling landscapes of American West and the compelling hero-villain dynamics, moviegoers became addicted to the cowboy movie. During that time frame, the number of Wild West productions, in fact, outnumbered all other genres combined. When hearing the words Western movie, many think of people like John Wayne and Clint Eastwood. They also think of riding horses, saving damsels in distress, gunfights, and of course, bad guys. Every time you watch a villain humiliating and goading an innocent man into drawing his gun, an action which surely leave him dead, you're watching the typical Western film bad guy. In its early days, the Western genre presented filmmakers with a structure clearly exploring stories of good versus evil. By the late 1960s and early 70s, though, that structure became more complex. Directors like Sam Peckinpah and Sergio Corbucci brought a rougher, bloodier version of the Old West to the screen. Their films featured morally ambiguous anti-heroes. The heroes had villainous qualities that blurred the line between good and not so good. The Western, whether on the big screen or the small screen, are known for use of scenery, old-fashioned gun battles, and character development. Character development sometimes even for the villains. Great villains, after all, make for great westerns. To me, many of the best bad guys in cinema are in westerns. There are no shortages of them in those old western movies. They range from ruthless outlaw to scheming, greedy industrialist. A memorable villain can elevate a good western to classic status. What makes a great villain? First and foremost, he must be a worthy opponent. A hero can be no more heroic than his villain is villainous. The Western bad guy stood out for his or her corruption, conniving, and brutality, a characteristic obviously required to fit the harsh conditions of the American frontier. They earned their reputation as a bad guy by looting, murdering innocent people, and terrorizing townfolks. True justice, when it came, typically came swiftly to those intimidating outlaws. In Western movies, the bad guy archetype sometimes embodies wealthy landowners or outlaws characterized by greed, violence, and a disregard for the law. The Western movie bad guy draws inspiration from real-life figures of the American West. Those outlaws and corrupt businessmen evolved over time to reflect changing societal concerns and the genre's narrative needs.
Please, Jeff, watch your chance. Get away. But be careful of Cassidy. He's suspicious. If you need money, I'll give it to you. Please, Jeff. Please, do it for me. I'll be watching for you in town.
All right, kid.
The good guys wear white hats and the bad guys wear black hats. Or that's the general assessment we older folks believed. Probably this is how we got that idea. In the early days of Hollywood, the greatest Western villains always wore black or dark hats. The good guys wore lighter shade hats. In those early days of Western film, virtue and righteousness were related to whiteness, while immorality and wickedness were related to blackness. The black hat image can actually be traced back to the 1903 12-minute silent film, The Great Train Robbery. Edwin S. Porter, an American film pioneer, shot the film in Milltown, New Jersey, far from the actual West. In the film's 12 minutes, a gang of bandits hold up a bank, rob a train, and eventually receive their just reward from the good guys. The black versus white hat image helped audiences easily distinguish the heroes from the villains. There is a moment, though, in the film that most likely could be credited with inspiring the black hat bad guy image. At the end of the film, the camera clearly shows the face of one of the bad guys in a close-up and pointing his gun directly at the audience. He shoots 1, 2, 6 times. He's wearing a black hat. Others say the 1930s low-budget westerns may have been where the perception of the black hat versus white hat started. Early western stars like Tom Mix and Gene Autry wore them. When color was finally added to film, it didn't make much sense to stop the trend because it had already become widely popular. There are some exceptions to this tradition, though, such as William Boyd, who wore dark clothing as Hopalong Cassidy, and Robert Taylor in the 1958 film The Law and Jake Wade. Regardless, whether wearing a black hat or not, great Western movie villains such as El Indio, Calvin Candy, and Frank are capable of leaving a lasting impression and overshadowing the heroes. The presence of a memorable bad guy can elevate a good Western to classic status. The Western genre gives the audience some of the most memorable characters in cinematic history. It is a great setting for true justice, and justice which comes swiftly to the foul villain. Sometimes, though, the dastardly bad guy are so charismatic that the audiences are both repelled and fascinated by them. They bring an unforgettable sense of danger and suspense to every film they appear in. The Western bad guys and black hats have indeed left a lasting impression to this day.